to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode 175 of the Art of War Down Under podcast. My name is always Adam Camilleri, and please forgive me, I have a bit of a cough, so if there's some pauses here and there, it's me trying to dodge it to the best of my ability. But we are here to record the review of the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex. To that end, I'm joined by the Greek god himself, Alexander Englezos from Australia. How you doing, mate?
Really good, Adam. How you going? Aside from the cough.
Yeah, aside from the cough, I'm pretty good, but I'm going to be trigger happy on the mute button, and we'll see how we go. But exciting times, hopefully exciting times. There's some mixed reports of the Admech Codex and whatnot, but we have literal, Admech royalty here to help us unpack it and get into the nitty gritty. So hopefully we're leaving some people with some decent hope for the future. But by and by, Art of War Down Under two-part podcast, as you all know. Second part's going to be myself and Alex doing some list discussion, answering some questions from you, and talking about what is going to be moving and shaking for Admech on the table. Some first press list ideas, some archetypes, and where they're really going to shine. But, mate, you do some coaching and have some other little bits and pieces going as well. So please, plug your wares.
Yeah, sure. So I am part of Art of War as well, and I do offer Art of War coaching. So if anyone does want to improve their game, it doesn't have to be just limited to Admech, but Admech is one of my babies, as is NIDS. I'm still currently number one in the world for them, surprisingly. I don't know how that's happened, but apparently triple Morlocks and double Trigons are just good. But look, I love coaching. I love being able to help people improve in the game. I really look at, kind of deployment strategies going into, terrain layout specific to your meta as well, and what else you'll be facing. There's also list writing services that Art will provide. We also have a huge network within the war room that you can all get into, as all of you I'm sure are aware. But aside from that, I also have an Admech podcast, which is the Forge World, which you can catch on Spotify too, where I talk specific to Admech and go into the tactica of it all.
So much akin to Sister Act for Sisters and a couple of other faction-specific podcasts. You are definitely one of the forerunners there for the Admech faction. So definitely happy for people to jump over there and get some more goodness. But jumping into this codex. So the index dropped without much fanfare or much excitement. And I'd love to say the codex has been different, but it seems possibly to not be the case. Unfortunately, of course, Admech is a very small player pool, a very small amount of people, especially in Australia. I mean, did you have to take out, refinance your home to afford your Admech collection?
No, you just can't afford a home if you get an Admech collection.
Depends when you start. But anyway, mate, what's your hot take on this codex? What's been your first feelings when you went cover to cover in it the first time?
So it's a bit of both ends, right? Like I do think that it is underperforming in terms of overall faction balance, and especially internally, but even externally, looking at how other factions sitting right now in the meta. That being said, because of pricing points, which is something that we'll be talking about, not so much monetary amounts, but the actual points figures in the book, it can be really invasive and abrasive for someone to actually face, and you can get some really good wins. Unfortunately, part of that means, how much money do you have to spend to actually get, kind of the right, suite of lists and how you want to do it. There's quite a few different ways to do that. But so in short, it is powerful, but it's powerful within, very niche, specific scenarios. And it's not powerful in a traditional sense of, hey, these units are here to take you out.
Yeah, it's really weird. So, every previous iteration of Admech or, Adeptus Mechanicus has been kind of built for them to kind of have their own identity, sitting somewhere between, I guess, in the Imperium superfaction, somewhere between Guard and Marines. They kind of operated, off a lot of metrics of both, but kind of in their own special way. And now it seems like they've decided, it's almost like they decided they want them to be more like in the Guard spectrum than the Marine spectrum. Like they've made a concerted effort to be like, we want you to have less good stuff, but more stuff, which is kind of the Guard, way of doing things. You Guard just have a density of things to get them through a lot of games. And definitely with the price decreases in points, that feels like it's more like where you're headed, right?
Definitely. I mean, we even have, it's obviously, aside from the ballistic skill, general output, but we don't actually have any ways to actually buff that. Aside from one doctrine, which nobody really takes. So you do definitely feel it more with Admech, the RNG side of it, I guess. compared to other armies such as Guard, Tower, or Votan, who have easy ways to increase their ballistic skill or get full rerolls or get other things like that.
Spot on. So unlike the Necron Codex review, which you would have heard last week, where we had, I think, 5 detachments, we now have this, well 5 new detachments. 4 new detachments. We have the same here. So we've got one less than both NIDS and Space Marines got. And I just assume that's because they ran out of ideas. They ran out of like nuanced identity points to strap rules to. So, but we are going to be unpacking. And look, there are some good, there are some bad, and there are some pretty ugly set to come. So sit in, strap in, and let us get started. For those going along at home, we're going to be starting at the Army rules, which of course is the Doctrine Imperatives, which reads as thus. At the start of the battle round, you can select one of the Doctrine Imperatives below. Until the end of the battle round, that Doctrine Imperative is active for your army, and all units from your army that have the Doctrine Imperative ability gain the relative ones below. First of which is the Protector one. Ranged weapons equipped by models in your units have the heavy ability, and each time a range attack targets this unit, if the unit is within your deployment zone, worsen the AP by 1. So in your deployment zone, you have Armor of Contempt. And then the Conqueror Imperative is ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have Assault, and each time a model in this unit makes a range attack, if they target an enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone, improve the AP by 1. Are these any good, mate?
One of them is. The other one, not so much. I mean, this game has obviously evolved, right? And it's no longer the game that you had, say, as an example, within 8th edition when I started, where there was limited terrain. You could kind of sit still and just shoot from one side of the board to the other. In that case, Protector would have been fantastic, right? It's basically a legacy of 8th. But Conqueror is the way to go because you do need to move.
Correct.
And the assault wide means it's fantastic for doing actions. It means that you get that extra mobility. Trying to box the enemy in is also something that you can control because we are, by definition, the fastest army in the game right now. Surprisingly, some people will be, surprised to hear that, but we are probably I think we are probably the fastest one right now. So being able to box someone in and improve all your AP is one of the main strategies that we've had to actually deploy in order to survive right now.
Spot on. In saying that, you're pretty much of the opinion Conqueror Imperative 90% of the time, and pretty much say to your opponent, "Hey, I'm going to be this," unless I say otherwise, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought on first read as well. All right, jumping into the first of the detachments. This is the Rad-zone Corps, or pretty much the inheritive of what they had in the index. So rather than reviewing it line for line, I'm sure people are probably aware if you were keen on knowing what AdMech was about prior to this codex, but Alex is going to give us the TLDR of what has changed for this detachment.
Yeah, sure. So there's a small change to the Bombardment, which is the start of Battle Round 1 ability. And now it also does D3 mortal wounds when your opponent takes cover. Taking cover means that they fail Battle Shock instantly, and they Battle Shock for the entire battle round. But now you also still roll a dice, and on a 5+, you take D3 mortal wounds for the enemy for each unit that does that too. So instead of it being no mortal wounds, there's a potential fallout still that can happen.
Yeah. And that army rule was, so the detachment rule was lamented as one of the worst ones in Index Hammer 40k. Is it still one of the worst?
It can be, but now that there's an option, I don't think it's that bad. But I mean, obviously, the reason it was so bad before was firstly because people could just, opt to go battle shocked for majority of their units that aren't scoring them battle round 1, which you can still do. But it's just a bit wild because you used to the issue that the AdMech one had previously was that you were forced to this attachment, and then some armies actually got a flat benefit from bursting it. You have Sisters +1 a hit. You have Crusher Stampede +1 a hit. You have, as an example, Dark Angels who would take the battle shock and just be buffed. So you have all these things. Yeah.
I loved choosing to have a 4-out Feel No Pain. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Now that you have a few different attachments, I think it's a bit better because you can adjust based on meta, which makes it better. And the Fallout, which is Battle Round 2 onwards, has also been updated to a better degree. I mean, it's a small tweak, but it is still quite nice. Which at the start of your command phase during the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th battle round, you now roll a d6 for each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone, which is as per normal. On a 3+, they take 1 mortal wound, but in addition now, they also have to take a battle shock test.
Exactly right. And we know battle shock a lot of the time is a 1/3 failure rate, or a little bit, at times it's more like a 48% failure rate, depending if you're 7 or 6 army-wide. And so that is not bad for denying, if you just denied 5 primary because of that once per game, that's a decent rule.
Yeah, it also kind of really promotes the idea of really wanting to box the enemy into their deployment yet again, and really push that way with your army design. You can then have like infiltrators that infiltrate and have -2 to battle to leadership and battle shock tests.
Yep.
That really helps out as well to really kind of push the envelope.
Fantastic. Well, we will circle back to the Rad-zone course when we get to the end of the detachments to talk about them holistically as a whole codex and where it comes in the kind of the power ratings of what people should be looking at to take in their first press lists, and definitely unpacking, possibly if Alex thinks there's lists to be written within this one for the kind of the first press competitive builds. But we will be moving on and talking about these other packages. The first of which is the one I'm excited for the most, the Skitarii Hunter cohort. The detachment rule reads as thus. This is the stealth optimization. So Skitarii infantry mounted Skitarii mounted and Iron Strider Ballistari units from your army have the stealth ability, and each time a range attack targets a Skitarii unit from your army, unless the attacking model is within 12, you have cover. That seems pretty good straight up for an army that doesn't have great armor saves generally.
Yeah, it's very good, right? I mean, it just helps in that mirrored shooting match. It means that you can really just change the favor, give other people a taste of the medicine and what it feels like to actually have to hit on force.
Yes, exactly right. Is this a good amount of units that it's affecting as well? Like when you, I guess,
definitely
talking about the two traditional halves of the AdMech Codex, being the Cult Mechanica side and the Skitarii side, there seems to be a lot more diversity. I mean, it seems like you can make a holistic army out of the Skitarii side alone. You have quick units, you have melee units, you have shooting units, you have vehicle units, whereas the Mechanica side still feels a little bit restrictive. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say. We can talk a bit more about that after in another detachment, but I feel like the Skitarii Hunter cohort, while it doesn't impact every single Skitarii unit with the detachment ability, there's still, some other units, as an example, the Sidonian Dragoons and or both Sicarian variants that actually already have stealth baked in. Then you have your transports, your planes, even your Doom Crawlers that can also pop smoke, so you can still be neg 1 a hit. So it ends up being able to cover that whole suite. It's just good ability. The units that you want to spam, you can spam and do some amazing work with.
Beautiful. All right, I'll read out so we're going to be talking about, of course, these detachments. It's almost as like a package. It's a whole package, and one of the biggest things you need to choose for in 10th edition is which detachment package you pick from. So we're going to run down the enhancements. The first of which is the Cantic Thrall Net, Skitarii Marshals only. At the start of the battle round, you can select one friendly Skitarii unit within 12 of the bearer. Until start of the next battle round, the Protector Imperative and the Conqueror Imperative are both active for that unit. So no matter which one you pick, you get the other one as well. That will run you, I believe, 25 points. But is it any good, mate?
It's good for maybe one unit in the whole decks. So,
which is
the on a good Doom Crawler.
Fair, because of course it's going to be sitting in deployment zone, so it does get the benefit of the -1 AP more often than not. What is the next one, mate? Read it out.
Yeah, next one is Clandestine Infiltrator. So you pick a Skitarii model, so it doesn't have to be a Marshal, but it can either be the new Sidonian Skatros that we have, or the Skitarii Marshal here. The bearer and models in any unit that they are leading have the Infiltrators and Scout 6 ability.
Oof. Infiltrators and Scout 6. And I think that one runs you 20 points, and that's a banger. That is really good.
It's amazing. It's when you start looking at it, right, you have a Skitarii Marshal leading that unit, and because you always have one model with the sniper base, you can actually, through zoning out, you can zone out 43.8 inches of the board with that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
In theoretically speaking, what's the best applications for this?
Best application is, let's just look at it as an example. You're firsting World Eaters who have a bunch of scout but have no infiltrate. You can just pop that unit up the front right away, and they can't get to you turn 1.
Exactly right. Yeah, and if all else fails, you can always scout back, stat away, because you get to infiltrate up 9 inches away with kind of full knowledge, and then scout back to whichever way you want, forward or backwards. It's pretty damn juicy. Yeah. I think that is an auto include. I think.
And just wait, if you talk about the next enhancement, you're going to see how it combos really well with it as well.
All right, Veiled Hunter is up next. Marshal only. After both players have deployed their armies and determined who has the first turn, you can select up to 3 Skitarii infantry units from your army and redeploy all of those units, one, of course, being the one we just talked about. When doing so, any of those units can be placed in strategic reserve, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserve. So they have a 3-unit redeploy. That is very good. How many points will that run you? It will run you 20 points also. So 2 of the cheaper ones being... those are both auto includes, mate, right?
Yeah, I think they are. It's fantastic. So let's say you are just trying to win the roll-off as a defender pick, and the enemy does have infiltrate units. You being able to actually just forward deploy, zone them out so they can't infiltrate, and then being able to take your unit back even if you don't go first.
Yes.
Amazing.
What a troll. What a troll.
It's really good.
That's fantastic. Give us the last one.
Last one's actually my favorite, so get ready. We already blew us away with the first two. This new one's Battlesphere Uplink. You pick a Skitarii model, and in your shooting phase, after the bearer's unit has shot, if it is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, that unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. If it does, until the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to declare a charge.
So we have the first one. I've never heard of you. Cantic Thrallnet has just disappeared from the collective consciousness of the world, because you can only take 3, and the next 3 are actually amazing. So you have,
and this one's 30 points.
Yeah, Scout. So you put aside 70 points in all your lists, everybody. You're just taking through these. You got Infiltrate and Scout on a unit. You have 3-unit Skitarii unit redeploy. You have to be infantry, so you can't do dragoons or sulfur hounds and stuff. And then you have Move, Shoot, Move. Those are all absolutely premium abilities.
Yeah, it gets even better because we can talk a bit about how the Dune Riders changed, but basically, to not go into it in full detail, you can have a marshal leading a unit with this, get out of a transport, have full rerolls to hit and wound, and then go back inside the transport as long as you're within 9 inches. Yep.
Spice in all ways. The first of the stratagems, of which, of course, there are 6 for all of these detachments. Bionic Endurance, we will be letting you know when any of these are battle tactics.
Which none are in this one.
None are in this one, exactly right, but just in general. This is a 1 CP strat in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. Just have an enemy unit as selected as targets. 1 Sakaran, Taraxi, or Sidonian unit from your army that was selected as the target. And you get a 5-up, feel no pain. So you just 1 CP, slap down 5-up, feel no pain reactively. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, a lot of people are really excited to do this with Dragoons.
How many wins do Dragoons have?
7 wins each. So you can have 21 wins with a 5-up. I'm personally using it for Taraxi and having a full brick of 10, and I'm finding it to be absolutely phenomenal. They're only 6.5 points per wound right now, so being able to amp that up is huge.
Really, really big. What's the next one?
Next one is Binary Offense. So you use this at the start of the shooting phase or the start of the fight phase. You get to pick 2 Skitarii units from your army that have not been selected to shoot or fight this phase, and 1 enemy unit. Until the end of the phase, you actually improve the AP characteristic of all their weapons equipped by those models by 1. The restrictions are that you have to target that unit, and it has to be an eligible unit as well. So you can't use it as an example to have 1 unit only get the ability and another unit can't actually see. So you'll have to make sure that they both are an eligible target. That one does cost 2 CP though. Yeah,
I was about to say it is a 2 CP strat, and it's kind of 2 CP of power. Like you're really lining up 2 premium assets on unit of Wraith Guard or something like that. Mm-hmm. It can be really quite powerful. Is this one you're going to be slapping down turn after turn, or is this kind of a tell your opponent about it, use it, maybe once per game?
Yeah, I think it's more of a once per game kind of thing. It really just depends on when you need to change the math, and you need the right units to change the math as well, because a lot of our units are, hitting quite poorly. So you either need to use it on a unit that's like full rerolls to hit and wound, or you need to use it on Taraxi as an example again, who already have full hits auto hit because it's a torrent weapon, and then you can have full rerolls to wound. Those are the better users for this sort of thing.
For sure. All right. Expedited Purge Protocol, 1 CP. In the charge phase, 1 Skitarii unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. 1 CP, advance and charge. Yes. All the yes. That is fantastic, mate. Game changer?
It turns the tide, especially for flipping objectives, right? So whenever you can actually operate and need to do that, it's 100% needed. I mean, there's much less fall back and shoot now in the game than there ever was. Like 9th Ed, I think nearly every single army had some sort of access to fall back and shoot.
Yep.
In 10th, it's hardly there. So even if you aren't, we don't have like premier melee units, aside from the Dragoons, but they already advance and charge natively. So you just use another unit and just tagging, tying up, doing things like that where the enemy can't fall back. And if they can't slap you back enough, especially when you have a 5-up feel no pain, they're stuck. They're dead in the water.
Awesome. What's the next one?
The next one is Isolate and Destroy. This is one of my favorite ones. You pick 1 Sicarian, Taraxi, Sidonian, Iron Strider Ballistari, or Skitarii mounted unit from the army. There's not
all of them.
Basically anything, right? Yeah. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, if there are no other enemy units within 6 of the unit being targeted by the attack, you get to add 1 to the wound roll.
Ooh.
See you later, Interceptors.
Yeah, it's a 1 CP plus 1 to wound with some T's and C's on it. And the T's and C's are a little bit rough, but exactly right. Clearing your backfield, people trying to get aggressive on you, seems really easy. Like those advance and charge chosen that just came out and traded on an objective are absolutely dead. Like no ifs, no buts, you just picked them up.
Yeah, and it's not start of shooting phase as well, which is really important to note.
Yep.
So if it was start, you wouldn't be able to target, say, 2 units next to each other. But since it's any point in the shooting phase, you can isolate. You can actually wipe out the other unit first, the adjacent unit, and then pop the strat. So it's fantastic.
Well, that's the isolate part of the isolate and destroy, mate. It's right in the title.
Yeah.
Next up is Shroud Protocol, so 1 CP. It's in opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy has selected its targets. 1 Skitarii infantry unit from your army that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected if it's within 12. So 1 CP reactive lone op. So another really good stratagem.
It's so good. I mean, there's one unit that all of these stratagems scream to me, which is just Taurasi, because you either get within 12 and get overwatched, or you stay outside of 12 and you can't shoot them. It's funny,
mate. Yeah, really, really, really good. All right, last one.
Program withdrawal. So at the end of your opponent's 5 phase, you can pick up to either 2 Skitarian units, namely being the Ruststalkers or Infiltrators, or 1 Skitarii infantry or Skitarii mounted unit from your army. You get to remove them from the battlefield and place them into strategic reserves, as long as each unit that was targeted with the stratagem was more than 3 inches away from all enemy units.
So that's a little bit more restrictive. It's a little more restrictive than other contemporaries, because a lot of the other ones just say you don't have to be just not in engagement range. 3 inches is a little bit more, but it's not a deal breaker. It's still a phenomenal strat.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any access to any units that have 3-inch deep strike? Like, can you just jump up, jump down, and jump down?
No, unfortunately not. But we do have 2 units in our suite that do have native deep strike. And we have a lot of cheap units, which this is also great for scoring secondaries, right? So pair it with a Kalida's assassin, and you've got 3 units going up and down each turn.
Absolutely awesome. That is the end of the package for the Skitarii Hunter cohort. And I'd hate to say that we've peaked too early. If you just want the rosy, beautiful, really strong part of this codex, stop now. Please don't stop now. Listen to the whole episode. But we have definitely started at the top of the mountain. This is a phenomenal package. 3 really good enhancements. All the strats are usable.
And they can't be vectored, which is great.
Exactly, man. Is this where you're starting with your lists?
Yeah, I've been playtesting this one quite a bit right now, and it's I'm having a blast. I'll probably be taking it to Uprising.
Oof, giving away the lead.
Yeah.
All right, up next, we have the datasheets conclave. The benediction of the omnissiah is the detachment rule. So at the start of the first battle round, select one of the following benedictions of the omnissiah to be active for cult mechanicus units from your army until the end of the battle. Might get you to finish this for me.
That's fine. So the first of the 2 that you can pick is Panegyric Procession. Each time a Cult Mechanicus model from your army makes a range attack, if they target a unit that was within half range, you get to improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. Keynote is that it's Cult Mechanicus model, so you cannot cheese it by having a Cult Mechanicus leader joining into a Skitarii unit to get that benefit. However, you can do that for the second one, which is Citation in Savagery. Each time a Cult Mechanicus unit from your army is selected to fight, if that unit has made a charge move this turn, until the end of the phase, you get to add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit.
Which of these is the go?
Citation for me. I think it's phenomenal, and it's our only real way of getting a nice melee hybrid list going together. And you can make some really scary stuff here.
Yeah, really interesting. So, of course, melee-wise for the Adeptus Mechanicus side of things, it would be Techno Priests and Breaches, right?
Yeah, so on the Cult Mechanicus, that's exactly right. I mean, you can actually have both kind of versions of the Electro Priest that can be pretty good here. Yep. Obviously, I mean, there's some memes as well. I think you can have 7 attack characteristic Tech Priest engines here.
Ooh. Yep.
Which is pretty funny. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do, but it's pretty much the Breaches, who will be 3 attacks each now instead of 2.
Yep.
With their 3 damage weapons, and then you'll have the Fulgurite Electro Priest, who can have 30 attacks with at strength 7, 2 damage, and dev wounds.
Nice. All right, into the enhancements. The Mechanicus Locum is up first. Tech Priest model only. The bearer has leadership characteristics of 6+, and once per battle, at the start of any phase, you can select one for any Cult Mechanicus unit that is battle shocked within 12 inches of the bearer, and they're no longer battle shocked. And that will run you how many points? I had it up. 1 sec. Shit, what's it called?
Mechanicus Locum.
10 points. Good, because it's only worth 10 points. What's the next one?
The next one is Mantle of the, I think it's a Omnissiah. It's a Tech Priest model as well. Each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, change the damage characteristic of the attack to 1.
Huh. Is that going to change anything, or are you still dead?
You're probably still dead. If the meta changes to be a lot of precision, you probably run it on a Castellan's robot unit with the Datasmith, because he has a 4-up field pain as well. That could make a difference. But yeah, much of a muchness. I don't think it's anything to write home about. 15
points for that one. The next up is the Data Blessed Auto Sermon. Tech Priest model only. Once per battle at the start of the command phase, you can select the benediction of the omnissiah you did not select at the start of the first battle round. Until the start of your next command phase, the benediction of the omnissiah, that benediction is active for your army in addition. So once per battle, you get both on a unit. Is that going to change much?
I think it's pretty good for breaches. Getting AP3 shooting, and then also having 3 attacks melee is a pretty cool combo. On a go turn, if you have the right positioning, I think that can be really nice. So for its cost, I believe, is it 20 points?
It's 20 points, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's worth it. If you have the 3 points there, you whack it in, and you have a bit more flexibility there.
I think that's fair. What's the last one?
Yeah, last one is Temper Corpia. This is probably the best one because you pick a Tech Priest model, and the bearer's unit actually gets the fights first ability.
So that one is 25 points, and it's probably worth 25 points. So you would chuck this with either any Tech Priest, maybe a Manipulus with a unit of breaches, and just be fights first in the middle of the table, or...
To be honest, you can even put it with a Datasmith and 4 robots.
Oh, yes. I keep forgetting about the robots because I always think of them as a shooting unit. But now it might be one gun, one fist. What do you think?
Yeah, probably one gun, one fist, and then you just go nuts because unfortunately they have lost the Cult Mechanicus keyword, the bots. So they don't get the benefits of the actual detachment rule, but just having them whacked on anyway because they never got the benefits from Rad. Yeah, I don't know.
Did they get the Skitarii one at least?
No. They have their own keyword now, which is Cybernetica. Okay. Yeah. But they still are very good units for the fight first. So if you are using bots, you could use them here to good effect. If not, again, use it on breaches. Even a Fulgurites unit could be really nice with a Manipulus. So there's a few different ways you can go there.
Well, it's just so wild that none of these even hold a candle to scout and infiltrate. Like, even adding any 2 of these together isn't as good as scout and infiltrate. And that was like the second best one out of the previous detachment.
Yep, you're right there.
It's buck wild how different this can be. Fair enough. I mean, Fights First is pretty good still, but... All right. Incantation of the Iron Soul is 1 CP. Any phase just after you allocate a mortal wound to a Cult Mechanicus model from your army. It's rough that this says mortal wound, not dev wound. That Cult Mechanicus model's unit until the end of the phase. Cult Mechanicus models in your unit have the feel no pain 4+ ability against mortal wounds. So I'm just trying to think of cases where this is going to be good.
Grenade strat.
Tank shock.
Tank shock. Realistically, it's just a relic from the past, right? Back when dev wounds were mortal wounds.
Yeah, correct. What's the next one?
Good question. The next one is Chant of the Remorseless Fist. This one I think is actually really good, especially for some of the things that we were talking about. And this is why I think the melee version, so Citation, is better. It is in the fight phase. You pick 1 Cult Mechanicus unit from your army that has not been selected to fight yet. Until the end of the phase, you get +1 to wound.
Yeah. Okay.
Strength 9 breaches with +1 to wound are just very scary. Yeah.
Yep. I just love that this is just 1 CP, slap it down, no T's and C's, only the fight phase. Really good for what it is.
Yep.
Verse of Vengeance is 1 CP also fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. If this am I remembering right, this is fight on death. This is 1 Cult Mechanics unit, 4+ fight on death if you're destroyed. And have not fought, of course. Has not fought. That seems decent as well, especially if you're going through all the buffs, especially if you charge something that has fights first. You get the plus strength, you get the plus attacks, and on a 4+, you still get to fight.
Yep. It's just good. I mean, like if you think that you're predicting that you're going to have some losses there, and you need that output to come through, you pop it anyway, right?
Or you pop it after your opponent interrupts, just to make sure you get the value.
100%. There's some really cool things. I mean, if you think about how durable this detachment can be, it's really surprising. If you put a Dominus with Fulgurites, they all of a sudden are -1 to wound always, including 5 phase, and they have a 4-up feel no pain.
Oof, yeah.
And a 5-up invuln. So they end up being very, 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 annoying to shift. And when you finally do shift them, they can still fight you back.
I think that's legit. I'm struggling to get my head around just how good this army will be because it sounds like you really have to invest in the fight phase with this army to kind of make anything of these stratagems so far. But we'll get to the end of it before we discuss. Tribute of Empathic Veneration. Love the names. 1 CP. Starting a movement phase. 1 Cult Mechanicus unit from your army and 1 enemy unit within 18 of it. That enemy unit must take a battle shock. If the test is failed until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that enemy unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So just a 1 CP starting movement phase battle shock, which I guess can be okay to just for the battle shock portion of it. And then if you do trigger the -1 to hit, this unit of Tau crisis suits might just be worth it, debuff them in general. What do you think?
Yeah, making it so they can't actually overwatch you before you move.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it can be worthwhile. I think it's very much a matchup dependent thing whether or not you'll use this.
100%. I mean, and then there's some matchups where people just have like the whole premise of their army is OC bombs, like Tyranids, the swarm. Their whole premise is just chucking gargoyles with high OC on all your objectives, and then starting moon phase, you can just try and turn that stuff off a little bit, get some of your secondary points.
Yep, definitely.
All right, what's the next one?
Next one is Litany of the Electromancer. This is one of my favorite ones. At the start of your shooting phase, you pick 1 Cult Mechanicus unit from your army, and you roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 6 of any model in that unit, adding 1 to the result if you use an Electro Priest model. On a 5+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
So 4+ if it's Electro Priest, and it's telling you to do this on an Electro Priest model, essentially.
Yeah.
But this would only be worth it if I was getting I'd want to get at least 3 units within 6, right? Because then you could bet for 1 CP you're going to get 2d3 mortal wounds. Any less than that, it might not be worth it, right?
Honestly, I mean, coming out of a transport with 10/11 models, the aura range is massive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do some really cool stuff, and look, all Electro Priest variants are very cheap. Even the Fulgurites and Skitarii for 5 come at 60 points each. You can just run a unit each turn coming out of a transport and getting you that value.
Yep, absolutely. Last one is Luminescent Blessing, is 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, 1 Cult Mechanicus unit from your army that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, Cult Mechanicus models in your unit have a 4+ invulnerable save. So that's reactive. Right. Oh, that's probably the best one here, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps breaches alive. You can have Fulgurites with -1 to wound, 4-up invuln, 4-up feel no pain. There's some really annoying and invasive things that you can do to the enemy.
So we were remiss. That one is a battle tactic, and the first 2 were battle tactics as well. The Incantation of the Iron Soul and the Chant of Remorseless Fist were also battle tactics also. Just quickly for people at home, is there much ability to make battle tactics free, or are we just looking at these being taxed by your opponent?
Just looking to be taxed when you're looking at Cult Mechanicus. Even for Skitarii, they're not free. You just can use 2 in a phase. But you still have to spend them.
What are your overall thoughts of the datasheets conclave?
I think it's good if you run a melee build. I think running at least 20 Fulgurites, running 12 breaches is a really nice core. A few transports, you still need some Skitarii to give 4 rerolls to hit for the breaches. But the Fulgurites, I mean, they hit on 3s base. They're one of our few things that do hit on 3s in the Codex. So I think it's nice. You can, even a bots unit, feels like it has a place here more than it does in a lot of other detachments. So
my only qualms, I guess, is how good is that melee going to be? I mean, I doubt it's going to hold a candle to World Eaters, but World Eaters are the best in the game at it. Where is it going to end up? Is it going to be better than just generic Marines melee? Because Marines just kind of get it for taking the units they want to take anyway, Sword Brethren, aggressors, stuff like that. Is it at least that good?
It's hard to say versus Sword Brethren. Sword Brethren can be pretty wild, but they are very costly. So, for the same merit, they're 280 points, I believe, without the leader attached, and 10 Fulgurites is 120. So
Oof, okay.
you can basically run 20 for 10 Sword Brethren, and in that case, it's very scary. Between the mortal wounds, between everything else, between the neck one wound, between the fight first, between the +1 to wounds that you get, because strength 7 +1 to wound, you're winning then on 2s as well, and you have dev wounds on top of that. I think you're in a pretty good spot.
So you just described much more of a combo pile than things that are just good enough on their data sheet on their merits.
Yeah, I think with AdMech in general, you have to just take out like 2 or 3 big units of the enemy, and then from there you just try to win on board presence.
Yep, fair. Explorator maniple is the next one. This is acquisition at any cost is the special rule, and it's a thing. At the start of your command phase, select one objective marker. Until the start of your next command phase, that objective marker is your acquisition objective marker. Each time an Adeptus Mechanicus model from your army makes an attack, if that model's unit is within a range of your acquisition marker, reroll 1s to wound. So essentially what the Phobos Lieutenant with the 2 knives does Lieutenant with combi weapon does for Space Marines, but as a detachment rule. And we both think this kind of stinks, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of ways to get rerolls to wound or twin link right now in our decks as well. So there's probably like 33% of our decks that doesn't even get a benefit from this attachment.
Yeah. And this one is I struggle with this one a lot because it's just all rough. What's the first enhancement?
First one is Magos. You pick a Tech Priest model, and at the end of your command phase, if the bearer is within range of your acquisition objective marker, you roll a d6, and on a 4+, you gain 1 CP.
Cute.
It's cute, but that means I guess you're kind of holding a point in the middle then. So it's not the same as, say, a Gretchen unit trying to get CP on the backfield, right?
The T's and C's are just rough for this. So, I mean, at the start of your command phase, so you can just turn 1, pick your own home objective that you're holding and just 4+ try and get one. But from thereafter, it becomes pretty rough. And so once per game, you can have a pretty reliable 4+ CP, and then the rest of the game is just good freaking luck.
And then the preface is that you need to be on the field, obviously, with this person, so you can't be in a transport, and you have to be on that objective marker as well. So, positioning wise, it's pretty limited.
We'll run you 15 points for the privilege. Janitor is up next. Tech Priest only. I think all of these are Tech Priest only, just to put that out now. Whilst the bearer is leading a unit, and that is within range of your acquisition objective marker, they have a 4+ invulnerable save. I don't hate that one.
I think it's really good for breaches.
Yes, I was about to say breaches. That is a very good. We'll run you 25 points, and it's probably worth it.
Yep. Noting that you can also put that on Castle and Robots if you wish.
True. They have a 5+ already?
They have a 5+, and you could make it a 4+. So it's fun.
Yeah, I like it. What's next?
Next is Logi, and you pick a Tech Priest again. When the bearer is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets a unit within range of your acquisition marker, you get to add 1 to the hit roll.
Okay.
Also good for bots and breaches. That's about it.
Yeah, that really is about it. And then once again, the T's and C's, it's just rough to trigger. Like it's 20 points. I think I read that Logi's 20 points. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for 20 points, you could easily just have it be +1 to the unit that is joined without any extra workarounds. But last one is Artisan, Tech Priest model only, of course. While the bearer is leading a unit that is within range of your acquisition objective marker, once per phase, you can change the result of 1 hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw made to an unmodified 6. That does sound. I mean, that does usually sound good. 15 points. I'm not sure how often it's going to come up.
Yeah, I think I sound like a broken record here. I guess bots, if there's a big anti-tank weapon to hit, change it to a 6, and the enemy gets a mortal wound in return, but you've also saved the damage roll, so you're happy. That's something, I guess. Also, a Dominus could, proc 2 dev wounds with it. That's about it. Like, it's nice to have if you have points.
They could have done so many more powerful things with you having to be on the objective marker. Like all of these is you have to be on your chosen objective marker, and they're all okay, but none of them are blowing me away.
No, they're very mid.
Yeah, very mediocre, unfortunately. What's the first of the stratagems?
So the first one is cached acquisition. You pick one Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army that was just destroyed while it's within range of an objective marker you controlled. You can use that stratagem on the unit even though it was destroyed, and that objective becomes sticky. So same as World Eaters.
Same as World Eaters. I do like this one. I do think this is good and can be very powerful.
I agree.
So Adeptus Mechanicus, so this isn't restricted to Cult Mechanicus or Skitarii. What infiltrates in your army?
So
is anything infiltrate or scout?
Just infiltrator only, and then you can have the raiders that scout, the rangers that scout, the boats with range within it that can scout. So things like that. But this is actually the only detachment that has no determination on what units you need to bring. You can bring everything, and everything gets the benefit.
Yeah, it'd be this one and the Rad, the first
Rad one. To a degree,
Yeah, the only real open book ones. But best example I can think of this one is you scout onto an objective turn one and get yourself killed with one of your cheapest units, throwaway units, retain the control, and then make your opponent trade something expensive for it, I guess, to get it back.
Yep, definitely. Raiders are perfect for that. They move 9 straight away, so they get on there straight away.
All right, priority reclamation, 1 CP. Fight phase just before an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army consolidates. That unit can make a 6-inch consolidate, provided you end that consolidate within range of your acquisition objective marker. And you can't target a unit with this stratagem if it's in 3 or 1 or more enemy units. This should be good, it should be okay, but is actually terrible because the T's and C's are horrific.
Yeah, I can feel you maybe using it 1 in every 4 games with maybe a bots unit to just get a bit of extra movement, and that's about it. That's
about it. You have to have made a charge to do the consolidate move. So opponent has to be perfectly placed, within 6 inches of the one you chose, so you can consolidate onto it. It's so hard to pull off. When you do, you're gonna feel like a feel like a savant when you do pull it off. And remember that's but it's just not going to come up very often.
Yeah, you can combo with the next one, but it's a bit funky, and that is also a battle tactic, by the way.
Good point out. Thank you, mate. What is the next one?
Next one is Info-Slave Skull. So you pick 1 Tech Priest model from your army and 1. This is at the start of your command phase. So you pick 1 model from your army and 1 objective marker within 24 of that model, excluding your current acquisition objective marker. And until the start of your next command phase, that objective marker is also considered to be one of your acquisition markers for all rules purposes. So if you do see 1 and you see where the enemies are at, you can then make that an acquisition marker, have extra, wound rerolls to a degree, and really push there.
Yeah, I suppose to me, more than anything, with how restrictive this whole detachment is about only keying off your chosen
markers.
Objective, this just might be necessary evil to be slapping down more turns than you would think.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Next one is oracular retrieval. 2 CP. So expect big things. Your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army that disembarks from a transport this turn. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a range attack that targets an enemy unit within range of your acquisition marker, add 1 to the wound roll.
Terrible.
Never heard of you.
2 CP battle tactic, that's strictly worse. It has more restrictions than the Hunter Clade cohorts one.
It's just straight up worse. It's just so bad. You have to be in a transport, and I got to tell you, none of your dangerous units, apart from, can you still put sterilizers? Can you still put Taraxian transports?
No, unfortunately not.
It's a unit of range or a unit of Vanguard. Congratulations.
Yeah, you can't get them full hits to full rerolls to hit and wound, but at the same time, then you're not even getting the benefit from your whole detachment ability because you're already getting full rerolls to wound. You don't need the reroll ones.
The comparison I made between Guard and AdMech has never been more keen than when you compare what Rangers and Vanguard used to be to what they are now. And I've got to tell you, there is no conditions that I will pay 2 CP on a unit of Cadian infantry. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing to put 2 CP on my worst unit.
I'll be honest. I think some of the Guard players listening to this and hearing what we go through will probably feel a bit of sympathy for us and feel a bit better about their own decks.
That's true. That is true. Mind you, they're not going to get a dex until the last 3 months of the edition, just like last one.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, maybe 1 month.
1 month this time. The clock is ticking down. All right, what's next?
Next is Incense Exhaust, which this one's kind of cute. It can be good. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, you can select 1 Adeptus Mechanicus infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target for the attacks, and 1 Adeptus Mechanicus smoke unit. Namely, that would be like your I guess nearly everything smoke every vehicle, right?
Yeah.
But until the end of the phase, both those units get the stealth and the benefits of cover.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. You can put it on breaches because they're infantry.
Yep. So you would almost just like have a Dune Rider full of a little bit of OC to throw on your opponent's objectives, just kind of tailing your unit of breaches into the midboard. And then reactively stealth and cover seems pretty good because I mean, big freaking bases on those breaches. You're either inside, you're either in the open or not at all with how our current L's and stuff work. So I think that's pretty right. Good.
And when you compare to all the other stratagems, right? This is 1 CP for 2 units to get stealth and cover. That's pretty good.
It's actually decent return for the CP, unlike some of the others. And that was not a battle tactic. Never mind. Reactive safeguard is the last one. 1 CP. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. 1 Adeptus Mechanicus infantry unit from your army that is in the range of your acquisition objective marker that was selected as the target of that charge, and 1 friendly Adeptus Mechanicus transport. Your unit can embark within that transport. Of course, every model in the unit must be within 3 inches of the transport, and it must be sufficient capacity, of course, usual T's and C's. That is not bad, though. That is actually not bad. I wish there was more in this to benefit transports, because this feels like they were like one more decent strat and or any freaking enhancement away from making this the lads in Dune Riders detachment, and it just kind of ain't enough there. But that is a good strat, right?
Yeah, it's. I think it's very niche. But when it is valuable, you definitely use it, right? It's just nice to have there when you're ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. So overall, Explorator maniple, it's bad. I wish it was better.
Yeah, look, I do love the idea that it's something for every single unit. There's no real disparate, there's no restrictions or anything like that. So I guess it's nice for people who love that all-comers list. But reroll 1s to wound, it doesn't really help us when we're already hitting on 4s and usually winning on 5s. So yeah,
100%, mate. It's just kind of, there's not enough here for any one thing to make me feel like there is an identity here or a core of this list that comes together naturally. Mm-hmm. And then when you do put together, I guess, a list of just generic good stuff, the T's and C's of your detachment rule and all the things of the 4 of the stratagems only work, and all of the enhancements only work if you are in some way adjacent to the objective that you picked. And it's so restrictive compared to literally the other 2 detachments even we've just been through, where they give you something no matter what. If you're just bad at picking the right objective for one turn of the game, you don't have a detachment.
Yep, exactly right.
It is rough. It is very rough.
It feels like they should have had a 1 CP strat that allows you to get 4 rerolls for 1 unit if they're on the acquisition instead of reroll 1s to win, and then you might have some play. It
could have just been 4 rerolls to hit for a unit on your chosen detachment. It would have had to have been a unit on a chosen detachment, on a chosen objective, or even 4 rerolls to wound for a unit on the chosen objective, and then it really would have popped off a lot better.
Yeah, it could have just been pick a unit, an enemy unit on the objective, and make that be O's a moment. And it's still weaker than O's a moment, but it's still something, right?
Yeah, exactly right. It still has more T's and C's on it, because then your opponent's just like, well, I'm only going to put my worst units for the first 3 turns. I'm only going to put nonsense on objectives. None of my good units on objectives. So it's definitely, you can play into it, play around it. As it sits right now, this is straight up one of the most awkward detachments I've seen in the game so far.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. We're trucking through this at a pretty good clip. We've got only 1 left, because like we said, there is 1 less in this codex than there are in all the others. Actually, there's 2 less in this codex than all the others, right?
This one has 5. I think all of them have 5 except for the Marines, who have 6.
I thought Tyranids had 6 as well, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So Cybernetica cohort, the rule reads as thus: Legio Cybernetica units from your army gain the Doctor Imperatives army rule. Run us through who's Legio Cybernetica, mate.
There are a whole 2 units: the Castellan robots and the Datasmith.
And the unit that has to go with the Castellan robots.
It's funny because the Doctriners, you know what they are, right? Yeah. They're benefit shooting, and the Castellan robots shooting right now is abysmal. The best benefit you get from here is that you might be able to get the Flamers to be AP1, and you can advance and shoot. That's it.
Yep. I'm a little annoyed that we're not even 50 minutes into this review, and on the last detachment, and it's probably just going to be a possibly another breeze through of not much to talk about of relevance. And I'm hoping we are wrong, people. Let's go. We may just circle back and review the Skitarii, the Sikarian one again, just because it was just.
Well, I wouldn't mind going through. I wouldn't mind going through the Rad one because there's a few spicy combos you can actually do there with the strats.
If you think we should definitely do that, mate. But tell us about the first of the enhancements here.
Lord of the Machines. You pick a tech-based model, and once per turn at the start of your opponent's shooting phase, you select one enemy vehicle model within 12 and visible to the bearer. That unit must take a leadership test. If the test is passed until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit that makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. But if the test is failed, they're not eligible to shoot at all this phase.
Okay, now we're cooking. 20 points. This sounds pretty good.
It's basically like a changeling, but limited only towards vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot of War Dogs, and just turning off a brigand once per turn, well, the possibility of almost 50-50 turning off a brigand sounds pretty good.
Can you imagine if Big Knights become meta again?
Yeah, dude.
Or someone's just playing a well-honed tower. I don't think that will happen. But just turning that off completely would be hilarious.
I love how this works. So one enemy vehicle unit. So you could use this on a unit of crisis suits that drop in 9 inches away to try and just blow you up, and then just be like, "Lol, take a battle shock for me."
Yeah, the fact that it's in the opponent's shooting phase when they just set up and get ready to go it's fantastic.
And no matter what, it's -1 to hit. Like, no matter, it's straight up. You just point at them, you -1 to hit, and then take the battle shock. I actually think this is really good.
Yeah, and it's not -1 to hit for the unit that the tech priest is leading. It's -1 to they have to subtract 1 from their hit rolls just in general. Yeah. It's great.
In general. Yeah. That's actually really good. May have spoken too early. Necromechanic is 25 points. Tech priest only. Once per battle round, when a saving throw made for a friendly Legio Cybernetica or Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle model within 12 of the bearer is failed, the bearer can use this enhancement. If they do, change the damage characteristic to a 0. So wiping out a failed save.
Yep,
it's not blank.
Bad. Yeah, it's also 12 inches compared to the Marine one. So 12 inches is quite large. So you can do some amazing things with this.
I like that quite a lot. All right, what's next?
Next is Emotionless Clarity. And by the way, I think the strats and the enhancements here definitely fix the issues with the detachment rule for sure. Mm-hmm. But Emotionless Clarity, pick a tech-based model, and once per turn, when a friendly Legio Cybernetica or Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle model with the Deadly Demise ability that is within 12 inches of the bearer is destroyed, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, do not roll to determine whether any mortal wounds are inflicted as a result of that model's Deadly Demise ability. Instead, mortal wounds are automatically afflicted, so you auto-explode.
Auto-explode. Hell yeah. For 15 points, and it's once per turn, and it's not a CP, so it's just like, all right, that guy's going to auto-explode this turn. Are you going to keep charging me, World Leaders player? All right, that one's going to explode next turn. So that actually, I quite like that a lot. That's one of the best T's and C's explosions that I've seen in a while. 15 points, and if you use it twice and just deal out 2d3 mortal wounds, let alone 3d3, 4d3, 5d3, I think that definitely gets its value back. Is there any better explosions than a d3 roll in the AdMech book that you know of?
Unfortunately, no.
Dang.
So, yeah, and unfortunately you can't do that. And the one little thing that I don't like about this is that it is within 12. I figure if they are within 12, you should be able to do it with an enemy vehicle as well. But alas.
Hell yeah. All right, last one is Arch Negator, 10 points. Tech-based model only. Range weapons equipped by the bearer have the anti-vehicle 4+ ability. Is that got any relevant place to go?
Yeah, you can put it on Dominus, so you get a bunch of mortal dev wins through, who then also does D6 mortal wins when you get into the fight phase, and then also has anti-vehicle 4+ now in melee too. So yeah, he can slap. He can do some good stuff. If you have the 10 points, I think you just whack it on.
Yeah, if you do have the 10 points left, because that is the cheapest. But in all honesty, you might not, because you may take the other 3.
True. Yeah,
you may just.
I think Necromechanic by far is the automatic mandatory one. Being able to shrug a damage down to 0. I think no matter what, all your lists have that, and then you work around with the rest.
Exactly right. You're taking a vehicle archetype in this one. You're probably taking the couple of Onagadun crawlers. You probably may Dragoons vehicles or they walkers?
They are vehicles, but they only have a one devastating wound within 6.
Okay, yeah. So the auto explode on them is not much value.
Yep.
All right, jumping down to the strats. Motive imperative. This is a battle tactic and is 1 CP in your command phase. 1 Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle from your army till the start of your next command phase. Add 3 to the move characteristic and add 1 to advance and 1 to charge rolls. That is pretty good because you said you advance and charge with Belisari now, yeah? So they get full massive return for this.
Yeah, so they go from moving 10 inches plus advance and charge. So what's that? 16 max to then charge. This is now they move 13 plus 7, so 20, and then they automatically get 1 to the roll on the advanced roll.
33 possible threat range. If they the 12.
they can turn one charge.
That is pretty legit. I like that a lot.
It's also really good for robots.
I was about to say, how fast does this make robots?
Well, they only move 6 this edition, so being able to move 9 and then get +1 to charge or +1 to advance the setup, I think is really needed.
It's a 1 CP, 50% increase in movement. So just 50% more movement for 1 CP. That's already kind of good. And the rest of it's just kind of gravy, I think. Do they have any assault weapons?
Well, I mean, they get the Doctriners now, so they do.
Yeah. So that's actually very good. What's the next one?
The next one is auto divinatory targeting. So in your command phase, you select 1 Legio Cybernetica or 1 Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle unit from your army, as per normal, and 1 objective marker. Until the start of your next command phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the ballistic skill characteristic of 3 and the ignores cover ability, but they can only target units within range of that selected objective marker. Already better than Explorator.
It's already better than anything in that detachment. Wow.
I can see you using this with indirect.
Yep.
Picking the enemy's home objective because you'll be hitting on 3s because you also get +1 to hit when targeting an infantry unit, and you ignore cover. And if you're in Conqueror, that means you're AP3 ignoring cover with your indirect.
That is legit. That's not a bad CP. It is a battle tactic, and I'm assuming that only means bad things for this detachment.
Correct.
Damn. Okay. Machine Spirit Resurgent is 1 CP. It's in your command phase. 1 Legio Cybernetica or Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle unit from your army that is below starting strength. Until starting its command phase, each time a model unit makes an attack, so shooting or combat, doesn't matter, you can reroll the hit roll. If you are below half strength, reroll the wound roll as well. So can you still take Belisari in 3s, or are they down to 2s like, Talos and...
Yeah, so it's 3s now because they used to be 6s. So
yes.
Your Dragoons, if you take at least 1 damage, you get 4 rerolls to hit with your sustained hits.
Hell yeah,
which is fantastic.
Hell yeah.
Even your bots, 4 rerolls to hit when you do get into melee because they only hit on 4s with no ways to reroll is really scary. Even your indirect, you verse someone with Rad cohort in that weird mirror that you will probably never see in your life. But if they do that, your whole army, whichever unit you pick gets 4 rerolls to hit.
Yeah, dude, I like it. So far, the enhancements and the strats have been bangers. What is the next one?
The next one is Machine Superiority. This is an epic deed strat. 1 CP in your command phase. Select 1 Legio Cybernetica or Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle unit from your army. Until the end of your turn, the unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back.
Nice.
On top of that, you can also ignore any or all modifiers to its characteristics and or to any tests made for it, excluding modifiers to saving throws. The fact that it's both is amazing.
Really good, really good. I think this is another great stratagem.
I think you even use this even if you don't have to fall back, right? Just ignoring all modifiers is is great.
Yeah, 100%. Transcendent Cogitation is up next to 1 CP. It's in your command phase. 1 Cybernetica or vehicle unit from your army. Until the start of your next command phase, the Conqueror Imperative and Protector Imperative are both active for your unit. So you get both. And of course, this is going to be best used on, you said, like Onagers or indirect?
Yeah, the indirect will be pretty nice because then you you get a +1 to hit already. But then you also keep your AP3.
Yes,
for hitting the enemy into the deployment. So you get the best of both worlds.
I like that one. Damn, these are all bangers. These are really good. All right, what's the last one?
Last one's a battle tactic. It's called Benevolence of the Omnissiah. So in your command phase, you select 1 Legio Cybernetica or Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle unit from your army. Until the start of your next command phase, models in this unit have a Feel No Pain 6, which is improved to a Feel No Pain 5 against mortal wounds.
Yes, please.
You'd be surprised. I think this is the weakest one.
There you go. Nice. Tell us why.
Because Engine Seers now give your units a 5-up Feel No Pain when you target them.
Okay.
So if you want to think about this detachment, right? Now let's just look at a Dune Crawler. Let's just look at one model for now. He has a 2-up save. He can be in Protector, so he has Armor of Contempt. He gets light cover. He has a 4-up invuln. He's T10. He has a 5-up feel no pain, and he can shrug damage and heal D3 each turn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This doesn't touch the sides. Yeah, that's fair. That is very fair.
So I think what you do is, you use probably like both your strats in both your CP each battle round in your own turn to actually do damage, because there's some really good stratagems here for output. I
love this detachment. I think this detachment is amazing. I don't quite comprehend what the core of this army is going to look like, or what the archetype's going to be, because I don't quite know if it's going to be, if it's going to be all dragoons, if it's going to be all robots, if it's going to be all onagers, if it's going to be all indirect. But the bones of what this brings is really good, really good.
It's fun, right? And that's, I think, regardless of anything, above all else, instead of power or anything like that, and what I want out of detachments is actual fun. It needs to be able to be fun to play. And this detachment does seem fun to play. Beautiful.
Yeah, so, okay, cohort Cybernetica. Doing my head in a little bit, because the detachment rule, what does it even add to this package? What is it actually doing of relevance compared to the rest of it? Because, I mean, like you said, 5 of the strats and 3 of the enhancements are phenomenal.
Yeah. At most, I guess you can conga line some of your robots from your deployment zone onto an objective. As long as one of them's touching your objective, he can then be in range of everything else with the shrugging damage, everything else. But then also gets AOC, and then has all the other defensive buffs that you can get, with like a feel no pain, everything like that, while still contesting and being a bit of a nuisance. So I guess you could do that and be very tanky, because there already are a 2-up save base. Maybe that's the thing. The doctriners aren't really giving it a huge benefit here. I think the benefit's obviously just all in the enhancements and strats.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious to see where the power is. The first 3 enhancements, you could easily take all 3, right? That's being the leadership and -1 to hit if not unable to shoot, the zeroing a failed save, and even the auto explode. The auto explode, I'm not sure. You'd have to wait and see how. It's only 15 points. You have to wait and see what kind of profiles you're taking, and I think it's a meta pick. If you're playing into a big anti-vehicle meta and you're playing vehicles, or a big melee meta and you're playing vehicles, it actually gets a lot of return.
Yep, I agree.
All right, well, let us circle back, mate. Let's go back to the Rad-zone corpse. Let's just go through it. First, the enhancements. You guys already know what the Rad bombardment does. We pretty much went over it already. Radial suffusion is the first of the enhancements. Adeptus Mechanicus model only. From the second battle round onwards, when resolving the fallout effect of the Rad bombardment detachment rule, if the enemy unit is in 6 of your deployment zone, in addition to those that are within your opponent's deployment zone, they take the fallout.
Within 6 of their own deployment zone. So it's basically 6 inches out of their deployment as well.
Yeah,
which is pretty nice. That's the new one that we got. So we lost one, and the rest are the same. But radial suffusion, I think, is pretty cool. Like being able to also have that 6 inches outside. If you look at, say, sweep and clear, that deployment type, it's covering a large portion on the map.
So that is the 25-point one here. So that is the most expensive. What's the next one?
Next one, these have all been renamed, but they're the same effect. Malphonic Susurrus. You pick an Adeptus Mechanicus model.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, Malphonic Susurus, I believe. If you can tell me if I'm saying that one right or wrong.
No, I would not have done any better. It's just a dumb word in general.
But while the bearer is leading a unit, models in that unit get stealth. So same as what we had before.
Awesome. Yeah.
The next one, we had Peerless Eradicator, which gives you a sustained hits for the unit that you lead.
Fantastic.
And the last one, this has changed a little bit. We used to have something called the Omni Sterilizer, which I'm sure most people know about because it was the. Yes, this is the same thing, except it's lost one part of it. So you still have anti-infantry 2+ and anti-monster 4+ gained onto your weapon. However, you do lose the +3 shots.
Okay. What's the money? What's the value picks here? I mean, the radial suffusion sounds fun because you're just doubling down on something you have to be taking anyways. A rule that you have to be doing. But as for the other 3, I mean, stealth is nice, and sustained hits 1 is nice. I'm not sure you take the autoclavic anymore.
Yeah, I don't think you do either. If you do it, you're probably using it on Anomalous. I was really excited thinking that Omni Sterilizer was going to be a thing, and then you can put it on the new Skatros. So he has 4 shots instead of 1.
Yeah.
But ultimately, GW was smart enough to not keep that in the game.
We're teaching them too much. They're getting better. As for the stratagems, a Baleful Halo is the first of which is 2 CP and is a battle tactic, so unfortunately might end up costing you 3 CP. It's in the fight phase just as an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army, excluding vehicles, that was selected as the target. And if that unit is battle line, you can also select another Skitarii unit within 6 of it, so you can kind of bubble it out. Until the end of the phase, each time attack targets one of those 2 units from your army, subtract 1 from the wound rolls. 2 CP for a reactive -1 to wound in the fight phase, which can be on 2 units. Not bad.
Yeah,
really.
It's pretty funny. I love how you can't select a vehicle unit. However, for the first part, but then the second part you can because you just pick a Skitarii unit. So then you can put it on like a a Dragoon unit or a Skitarii. I don't like it because it is 2 CP. They've definitely nerfed this one. Yeah. I think some of the strats here, there's half are good, half are really bad. So we'll kind of go through that.
Next one, Matt.
Extinction Order. So this one hasn't changed. In your command phase, you select 1 tech-based model from your army and 1 objective marker within 24 of that model. You roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within range of that marker. On a 4+, they suffer 1 mortal wound and must take a battle shock test. It is in the command phase, so I guess there is a bit of play there. But the fact that it's a 4+, they then have to then do a battle shock on top of that. It should just be an automatic because 50% on 50% is really poor math.
It really is, yeah. Paying the 1 CP for a 50-50 of both effects. It should have been they take a mortal on a 4+, they take a battle shock, or they take a battle shock and on a 4+ to take the mortal. Having a 4+ of both, like you said, is not great. But hey, in your command phase before you score your primary, it might just be worth it to try and tilt a game or get a couple more points going your way.
It kind of gets worse when the enemy has 2 units on the objective as well. So 12.5% chance of being successful.
Yes, exactly right. It's rough. Aggressor Imperative for 1 CP. This one is also a battle tactic. It's in your movement phase. 1 Skitarii unit from your army that has not been selected to move this phase. If that unit is battle line, you can also select a Skitarii unit within 6 of them that isn't battle line. Until the end of the phase, each time one of those units advances, do not make a roll, and you auto advance 6 instead. So possibly 1 CP for 2 auto advance 6s is pretty good return.
This is next level. So I just want to paint a picture really quickly. I'm going to be a bit excited, but
do it.
Aggressor Imperative. Okay. Now, I'm just going to put this out there straight away and say this on the podcast right now, that Inquisitors are the best they can ever be within AdMech, and they're really terrible everywhere else, and you should only run them within AdMech. So the reason for that is, firstly, they get to ignore cover. They get get assault on their weapons. They get +1 AP on their weapons. They get full rerolls to wound through firing support. They get all of this stuff for free. Then they give all the other benefits they give to the actual faction. So let's look at a lowly basic Inquisitor, who firstly has an 18-inch 2d6 dev wound flamer, by the way, which can get full rerolls to wound, as we just mentioned, which is great. But on top of that, he also gives a grenade keyword. Awesome. On top of that, though, he refunds CP on a 3+ on a battle tactic. Huge. So what you do, you have an Inquisitor leading a Skitarii unit, and you have 3 Dragoons next to him. You do the strat, so that way the Dragoons automatically just move 16, and they can still charge. And the Skitarii move, 12/15, if you come out of transport. On the other side, you roll your dice. If you get that dice back on a 66% chance, you refund your CP. Then on the other side of the field, you have a Skitarii Marshal leading a unit with another 3 Dragoons, who can now do that strat again. So now you've got 4 units that have auto-advanced 6 for 1 CP, 2 of which they can advance and charge.
Yes, that is... Okay, yeah, that's a beautiful picture. That is a fantastic combo piece as well. Damn, that's actually really good first-turn pressure. Crazy good. I am on all the middle board objectives, and here's 2 powerful melee units charging you.
If you go second and the enemy goes first and they've started pushing up, you can just really, punish them.
Really punish, yeah. Next up is Precalibrated Purge Solution, 1 CP. It's in your shooting phase. one Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot, of course. And if that unit is battle line, you can also target one extra Skitarii unit within 6 that is not battle line, like the rest of them. And to the end of the phase, each time a model in one of those units makes a ranged attack, if the target of the attack is within your opponent's deployment zone, you can re-roll the hit roll.
Huge.
Good, but awkward T's and C's. What do you think?
Well, you can do that same combo that we just talked about as well on 2 lots of Battlestar units or 2 lots of Disintegrators alongside the Skitarii. So you can actually have 4 units with 4 rerolls to hit.
Yes, you can. Or as long as your opponent's in their DZ, yeah?
Yeah, as long as you're targeting that unit. Yeah. It's still pretty wild.
It is still pretty wild. I mean, with today's terrain, and if they're a good player who's deployed appropriately, I'm not sure they're going to give you enough targets for the strat. For both of what you just said, for like the four units, but definitely 2 units can get a lot of mileage out of this.
Yeah, 100%. At the point here, you kind of don't really care about the Skitarii. You really care about just getting the 4 rerolls for the big hitters.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a Skitarii battle line unit, which is exactly Rangers and Vanguard, right?
Yeah, but then you don't care that they get the benefit. You just care that they're giving it to another unit afterwards.
It's funny how they give it out, but they're the cherry on top of this situation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like they're just the perk. They're the perk. It's funny.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
What's the next one?
Next one's lethal dosage. This has changed. It used to be a +1 to wound versus non-vehicle units for 2 CP. Now it is you select one of your units and they get lethal hits.
Nothing wrong with that.
In the shooting phase. Yeah. Nice and easy.
Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, last one. Bulwark Imperative, 2 CP. Better be good. It is a battle tactic, so it has to be really good. Your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Skitarii unit from your army. Same caveats. If it's battle line, it bubbles off to a friendly Skitarii unit that is not battle line within 6. To the end of the phase, the models in the units have a 4+ invulnerable save. Now, this one, bubbling it out. I mean, you're not going to get much refund on the CP. You're going to get what? One of the 3 or 4 CP you're using back, right?
Yeah, so it's not the same. I think this one here is probably the weaker one. Same with Baleful Halo. Being 2 CP really hinders them. And I think you really focus on offense in this detachment rather than defense.
I think so. I think 2 CP reactively save your ass with a 4+ invulnerable save. If you really need to, so be it. 2 CP is either worth it or it's not. But yeah, I think there's much better usage for CPs here, like you've painted the picture for us. But the Rad cohort is, so what used to be the Rad cohort is actually looking pretty good. But I would love to. I like to say that in I guess knowledge of how bad 2 of these other ones are, because the Datasheets Conclave and the Explorator maniple, especially the Explorator maniple, Datasheets Conclave, I think jury's out on. I think I'll have to see that to be a believer.
I think it's pretty good.
I think it's fine. My only issue is the units using it on, and the lack of like the disparity.
Yeah, they don't have the best enhancements, right? Like, so straight away you're on the back foot compared to Hunter Clade. Hunter Clade just obviously to me is like an S tier. I think Datasheets can't compete with that, but it's still a good detachment on its own.
I think so. I think it
has responses to the meta. Yeah.
So my only issue with Datasheets is that it does push you into the melee build, and there's only 3 units to build your army around in there. If you're playing a matchup where those profiles aren't good, your army isn't good. So that's my only issues. That's my only issues there. Apart from that, like what it does give is very relevant. But yeah, Explorator maniple. Right now, ring a ding ding. It's down there with the Crusher Stampede, probably worse than the Crusher Stampede. It's possibly the worst attachment in the game as it sits right now. We'll see how we go with further future codexes. But so, what's the second best? Because of course the Hunter cohort is definitely the best. But is it Rad-zone or is it the Cybernetica as the second best?
I'd say Rad-zone's better than Cybernetica. I think ultimately what it comes down to is how the meta adapts and changes, and I think the positioning of these will change as a response, more so than it does for some of the other ones. Similarly, like how you can rank, Vanguard Tyranids, right? It's sometimes amazing in the meta, and sometimes it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, situationally phenomenal, but the average is, not incredible.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you're running Rad-zone and you're wanting to box the enemy into the deployment zone, but you're versing Ward Eaters all day, you're not having the best time.
The premise of your army is not gonna carry you. In saying that, that brings us to the end of the review of the Codex. We usually would speak to some datasheets at this point. I'm just going to throw it out to you, mate. Give us your top 3 most improved datasheets or units that you think people should look at as a budding AdMech player for chucking in their lists immediately?
Okay, let's go with one that I don't know every list should have it, but it's pretty interesting and you can do a lot of like very annoying things with. Is the Onaga Dooncrawler, because now it has a 6-inch aura. Every battle line model wholly within 6, so the whole unit doesn't have to be within 6, gets a 4-up invuln.
Very nice.
So you combo that now with an Engineer who's giving that Dooncrawler a 5-up, feel no pain. You know, you can run this in your vehicle detachment, the Cybernetica cohort one. So they're even more tanky. That Dooncrawler, you can't really kill them, but they're still giving out these buffs. And then you run a Horde. You can run 80 Skitarii with 4-up invulns. What are you going to do about it? Like, it's it can be pretty invasive. I tested it into Necrons, and it was extremely funny, especially when Doomsday Arcs can't kill a Dooncrawler as well. On top of that, yeah. So that's one.
That is cute. Yep.
The next would be the Dune Rider, the Scorpius Dune Rider, the transport. It finally has its fix. If for some reason the weapon on it didn't have twin linked, but all the other weapons that have the same name did have twin linked in the book.
Yep.
So now it finally does have twin linked, which is great because it's the same hits 18 shots twin linked. So it can do damage, especially when it gets +1 AP. On top of that, though, it has the firing support. So being able to get Skitarii units out of the transport and being able to get full rerolls to wound is absolutely phenomenal, and should be spammed. So it's just great. It helps change force multipliers. It means that a Skitarii unit can do, on average, I think it's like 5.6 damage to a Wardog. And if you're running, so if you're running, 4 boats and 4 units, that's pretty good. You can, pick up 2 Wardogs just from that, and that's a very minimal investment. So it helps change the math, to a degree. The last one, I mean, the unit that I am spamming right now is Taraxi Sterilizers.
The Flamer Birds, yeah?
Yeah. So they got changed. They firstly cheaper for some reason. So they're 6.5 points per wound, so 13 points per model. You run them in Hunter Clay, they get -1 a hit, they get everything else. But on top of that, their new ability is reroll 1s if you target an enemy with your flamers on an objective. If you're within 6 inches of Skitarii battle line, 4 rerolls to wound.
Ooh, okay.
I was versing World Eaters the other day. Someone got ready to charge my Skitarii. I ingressed them in behind my Skitarii, and then when he charged, I overwatched and wiped out the whole unit because he was on the objective.
Wow.
So, it's really scary. It's really cool. And not to mention, I could talk about all the different things that they get, like as combinations within Hunter Clade, but I think we'll save that for the next video. I will say one more honorable mention. The Corpus Skitarii are pretty good now. Because
happy to hear.
Yeah. You know me. I used to run 30 of the buggers.
Yes.
But what they do now is automatically, as soon as they hit a target, you select one target that you attacked with your ranged weapons, and that unit now is shocked. They have to subtract 2 from their movement, advance, and charge rolls. As long as they're not a vehicle or monster, you can't select them. But on top of that, as a little cherry on top, with how poorly it's been worded, you can actually get a Dominus who has a 24-inch range gun to actually be as long as he shoots the target, he's part of that unit. And you can electroshock from 24 away.
That's really cute. Damn, that's actually phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you think about your Datasheets conclave, a Corpus Skitarii unit, slowing everyone down and doing mortals to everyone around them is really nice.
Really nice. All right, so then we go to our rating systems that we always do at the end of codexes. So as an AdMech player, as an AdMech master, how happy out of 10 are you with this codex?
It's really hard to say. I'm technically not happy because the identity is pretty, and the balance is really bad. But I think there is play. So if we're saying how happy we are from index to now, I'm very happy. I would say that it's probably A tier. If we're talking about how it actually is as a whole, looking at everything, pragmatically into the meta, we're probably like a B tier, maybe could be a C tier. It's very pilot dependent and how much you want to spam units. But Hunter Clade's still a tough detachment to play. It's very mentally, draining.
Yes.
So you got to be the right player for it.
If I was an AdMech player, I would be out of 10. So did I ask you what number out of 10 would you give it?
Out of 10, let's give it a 7.5 or 7.
You're way more generous than me. I haven't played AdMech since early 9th edition. I think I had that, like, played a little bit around with them, but man, I would be like 4 out of 10 with this.
Yeah.
The internal balance is just whack. It's just so bad. And it's got. So I think the analogy I said to you in the green room before we started was like, it really felt like they gave some good rules on not great units. Like the data sheets just didn't match the army rules. And
Yep.
I think now with the points, it's getting a little bit better. But the fact is, the detachments are so out of whack. Like I really worry about the long-term enjoyment when you're 100 games deep on the Hunter Clade and you want to do something else with your book, and you're looking through it and you're like, this ain't it. This attachment ain't it. This attachment ain't it. This attachment ain't it. All right, close the book. Guess it's just book. It's just Codex Hunter Clade. And that's my worry.
You are right there, right? I mean, the biggest thing that I see as an issue moving forward with this army is that we're already
cohort.
Our Hunter Clade works. That's what we call it.
Everyone knows.
Kill Team. I think Kill Team they call it that. Yeah. Either way. The biggest issue, you hit the nail on the head. The longevity of this book is actually already destined to fail. It doesn't actually have a long shelf life. There's only so much you can make points cheaper with this army that is already now the most expensive army in the game. It costs you $87 Australian to get 45 points on the field, or 98 to get 55. It's very wild. In saying that, you can't just keep making them cheaper to make it work. What happens if you do that is our output does increase, but our durability increases much higher. And because of that, other armies aren't going to be able to actually have answers to it. What needs to happen most likely is that you need to bump everything up by 20-30%, but then also increases output by that much. That way the durability doesn't actually change and you actually feel losses. Because right now, I mean, I've played games and people can kill maybe 500, 600 points in my army and I'm still flooding the board.
Yep. Exactly right. And right now it's a balance via numbers, balance via numerosity, by the sheer density. Unfortunately, that's going to be a modus operandi for a lot of players moving forward. And like we've said, we don't know. The shelf life is in question. I'm hoping this thing, some of these detachments age better than we think and become more relevant, in a different meta. Like we get a very vehicle heavy meta, and the cohort like the Cybernetica cohort can start popping off, or that the Rad one, everyone starts just sitting in there, guard comes out and they're just sitting in there, DZs doing nothing, and the Rad cohort becomes really good and start nuking them if they, try and play that way. But yeah, I've got great concerns about this, and I do agree with you. I think this is at best a B+, possibly in your hands, and some of the best players at AdMech in the world could be pushing into the A tier. I don't see anything in here that's going to stress out Eldari or Chaos Space Marines right now.
No,
in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty rough. You're probably right. Because of thinking about longevity, I'd probably put this down to like a 5 from a 7, to be fair. But currently playing it now for the next few months, it'll be fun.
For the next few months, you guys are going to have a ball, because what I will say is good, that your best attachment has depth, at least your best attachment 100%. Has depth, and it's flexible and it can play in a lot of different ways, and it can be really enjoyable. So there is that. I mean, because if the Skitarii cohort one was mediocre as well, like this book might as well not exist. Just stick with the index. You just less disappointment. But anyway, on that note, we are going to wrap this up, my man. Where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about AdMech and get better at AdMech, or start getting invested in AdMech?
You can find me on Art of War. On the Discord there. You'll be able to also find me through coaching means and everything else there. You'll find me on the AdMech Discord quite a bit on the competitive side of it, helping out some of the guys there and going through a few things. In fact, I did a game on TTS just so people finally saw a win. Apparently, we've had no wins since the Codex has come out with any bat reps.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame. But you can find me on a few things like that. I think Siegler's now gotten a win with us as well, though. So, me and Siegler are doing God's work.
Just going to hold it down for the world.
Yeah. And find me on the Forge World podcast so you can ask questions as well live throughout that. And I'll be happy to help everyone improve their game.
Beautiful. Well, see him over there, guys. We're going to go over and record part 2. We're going to write some lists. We're going to try and see what we can cook, what we can get going, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more hope for some direction of where to go to get on the tabletop and start getting some wins for yourselves. Thank you very much, Alex, for coming on. You've been an absolute gent and full of knowledge that I don't have with AdMech just yet, so really deeply appreciate it. And take care. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K. hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.